It's strange how life sometimes feels like a gentle stream, calm and steady, until one day you realize it's carrying you far from where you thought you'd be. Looking back now, about a decade ago, I never imagined that the path I was on would twist so sharply, nor that the people I trusted most would become the source of my deepest wound. But here I am telling this story, and it starts simply enough with a dream, a family, and a little tech startup that I poured my soul into. My name is Rahul. When I was in my early 20s, right after finishing my engineering degree from Pune, I was like most young guys with a vision, but no clear map. I had this idea, a small software tool, to help local businesses digitize their operations. It wasn't flashy or sexy by Silicon Valley standards, but it was real and practical. I had no investors, no fancy office, just a tiny desk in my cramped Mumbai apartment, where I spent countless nights coding and researching. I worked part-time jobs, lived on instant noodles and chai, and kept telling myself that this grind was temporary. My parents, well, they were traditional, middle-class folks from a Maharashtrian family. They didn't quite get what I was doing at first. To them, engineering meant a job in a big company, preferably government, or a stable multinational firm. But I was stubborn. I wanted to build something of my own, something that mattered. They supported me in the quiet, practical ways, reminding me to eat, to not stay up too late, but I could tell they had doubts. The biggest bright spot in my life was my younger sister Sarah. She was 4 years younger than me, born when I was already a teenager. From the beginning, it was obvious my parents had a special fondness for her. Maybe because she was the only daughter, or because she was so charismatic and outgoing. Sarah was different from me in almost every way. She was confident, social, and effortlessly charming. Our conversations at home felt like two worlds colliding. Me, the quiet, focused older brother, and her, the lively, popular girl who could talk her way out of anything. Growing up, I didn't really mind. I loved her, and honestly, I admired her too. But there was always this invisible line drawn by my parents, a subtle preference that crept into everyday life. While they were always proud when I got good grades or did well at college, their faces would light up even more for Sarah's achievements. It wasn't just pride, it was this intense belief that she was destined for greatness, and that belief shaped everything that came next. Sarah went on to study business at one of India's top schools, the Indian School of Business. That was a turning point in our family story. Suddenly she was no longer just my sister, but the future, the one who would take the family to new heights. They talked endlessly about her leadership potential, and how she had the sharpest mind among all their children's friends. When she graduated, they pushed hard for her to join my startup. At first I was genuinely happy. Having family around sounded like a good idea. I wanted to keep things close, and honestly Sarah's education and fresh ideas could bring some much-needed energy. The company had grown slowly but surely in the last few years. Our little software tool had found its way into some promising local clients, and I had a small but loyal team working under me. It felt like we were on the cusp of something bigger. When Sarah stepped into the office for the first time, her presence was electric. She dressed sharply, spoke confidently, and had this way of making everyone listen. She quickly impressed the team with her ideas on marketing and scaling the business. I felt proud, almost like I was passing the torch to someone worthy. But that feeling didn't last. What started as collaboration soon turned into competition. Sarah didn't just want to be part of the team, she wanted to lead it. She began making decisions without consulting me. Sometimes I'd walk into meetings and find plans changed, budgets reallocated, or new hires made, all without my knowledge. She was persuasive, almost disarmingly so, and people around her seemed to follow her lead without question. I tried to talk to her, to remind her that this was my company, that I had built it from nothing, but she brushed it off with a smile, and vague promises that she was doing what was best for the future. Slowly I felt myself being sidelined in the company I founded. The team started looking to her for direction, and my voice became quieter in board discussions. I couldn't understand how this had happened so fast. I thought family meant trust, but somewhere the lines had blurred. and the subtle favoritism I'd seen since childhood was becoming a sharp blade against me. The final blow came on a rainy evening in late September 2017. We had a family dinner at my parents' house, just the four of us, the usual routine. The air felt thick, like something was unsaid but hanging there ready to explode. My parents, usually warm and steady, had this strange, almost clinical tone. They told me quite plainly that they wanted Sarah to take over the leadership of the company. They said she had the vision and skills to lead it into the future, and that it was time for me to step aside. It wasn't a request, it was a decision. They expected me to accept it. I remember sitting there stunned, as if someone had punched a hole through my chest. This was my life's work, the embodiment of my sacrifices and dreams. And now they were telling me I was no longer the right person to lead it. The shock was numbing at first. I wanted to argue, to fight, but all I could do was sit there and listen to their justifications. They said it was for the company's good, for Sarah's potential, and for the family's future. But in that moment, I felt completely alone, betrayed by the very people who were supposed to stand by me. After that night, I couldn't sleep for days. I kept replaying every memory, every sacrifice, every sleepless night spent coding while the world was asleep. I remembered the first client who trusted us, the small victories, and the tiny office space that had slowly expanded to something respectable. And now it felt like all of that was slipping away, not because of failure or bad business, but because of family politics. But beneath the hurt, a fire started to burn. I knew I couldn't let this happen without a fight. I wasn't just going to watch my family erase my identity and take what I had built. I began to look at the company through a different lens, not just as its founder, but as someone who needed to protect what was rightfully his. In those early weeks, I quietly started taking stock of everything: contracts, clients, key employees. I began reaching out to the people who truly believed in me and my vision, making sure they understood the situation. I learned quickly that loyalty in business is complicated, especially when family is involved. But I was determined. What happened next would change the course of my life, but at this point I still had hope that things might resolve themselves, that maybe my family would see reason. I clung to that hope even as I prepared for the storm ahead. Looking back now, I realize that moment, the dinner that night, was the moment my life split into before and after. And what came next was the breaking point, the moment when everything I had built was tested in ways I never expected. After that dinner, everything changed. The days felt longer, the nights colder, and my mind refused to rest. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together how my family had become strangers in my own story. The betrayal wasn't just about business, it cut deep, the kind of wound that you can't show on the surface but feels like it's eating you from inside. Sarah, meanwhile, seemed to grow stronger every day. Her confidence in the company swelled as if fueled by my parents' backing. I could see it in her eyes. A spark I once admired had become something else, something calculating. She no longer hid her ambitions. It was clear she wanted to take over completely, and she had no intention of waiting for me to give up my seat. At the office, the atmosphere shifted too. People who had once looked to me with respect now glanced at me sideways, unsure where I stood. Some whispered in corners, their loyalty swayed by the shiny new leader my family endorsed. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. Not because I was insecure, at least not entirely, but because the people I trusted were slipping away. One moment still haunts me. It was a Friday afternoon, late 2017, when Sarah called a team meeting without me. I wasn't even invited. They gathered in the conference room, and I could hear the muffled buzz of voices as I walked by. Later, someone told me they discussed new strategic directions and reassigned some key roles. The coldness of that exclusion hit me like a slap. I tried talking to my parents again, hoping for some middle ground. I reminded them of the years I had put into building the company, of the risks I took while they stayed comfortably behind the scenes. I told them how it felt to be pushed aside, to have my work and sacrifices overlooked. But their answer was the same: Sarah was the future. It wasn't just a difference in opinion anymore, it was a full-blown family fracture. The breaking point came unexpectedly. On a drizzly evening in December 2017, I had just returned from a business trip, feeling drained but hopeful that things might calm down. Instead, I walked into a meeting at the office that felt more like a tribunal. Sarah, backed by my parents, presented a plan to formalize her takeover. The room was tense. The faces around me were divided, some loyal to me, others already pledged to Sarah. My heart sank as I realized this wasn't a negotiation. It was a coup. In that moment, a wave of emotions crashed over me. Anger, disbelief, sadness. I thought of all the nights I had worked while my sister was out partying. I thought of the small victories that no one celebrated but me. I thought of my parents, who had always said family was everything, now turning against me like judges. I felt crushed but also strangely calm. Something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to beg or plead. I would fight, but not with words or tears. I would fight with the one thing no one could take from me: my knowledge and my connection to the company's soul. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by my desk surrounded by notes and contracts, plotting my next steps. I knew the company's weak points: financial dependencies, client relationships, employee loyalties. I began quietly reaching out to those who still believed in me, explaining my side without anger or blame, just the facts. Every call was a risk. If Sarah or my parents caught wind of my moves, the fallout could be worse, but I had to try. It felt like a chess game with high stakes, and I was determined to play to win. The worst part was the silence from my family. They avoided me, pretending nothing was wrong or that I was the problem. Christmas came and went with empty dinners and cold exchanges. My parents sent Sarah messages filled with pride and encouragement, but barely a word to me. It felt like being erased from my own family's narrative. Amid the turmoil, I also had to hold the company together. Employees sensed the tension and morale dropped. Some left quietly, others stayed but with heavy hearts. I found myself constantly putting on a brave face, hiding the pain behind professional calm. I started doubting everything. Was I really the founder I thought I was? Had I missed signs along the way? Was I blind to how things had changed? But beneath the doubt was a stubborn core that refused to break. I kept asking myself, how could my own blood turn against me like this? How could they decide my fate without even hearing me out? In those long, lonely nights, memories flooded back, moments from childhood, when Sarah had won the spotlight, when I had quietly stepped back so she could shine. I remembered the times I defended her at school, the times I cheered her on when no one else did. Was this the thanks I got? But then, amidst the hurt, I also felt something else: clarity. I understood that this wasn't just about family or business, it was about control, power, and survival. I realized that if I wanted to protect my legacy and my future, I had to be smarter and stronger than ever before. The days turned into weeks, and my plan took shape. I worked in the shadows, carefully transferring critical contracts and securing loyalty from key clients. I created a new entity, one that could carry the essence of what I had built but free from the family drama poisoning the old company. Every move was calculated. I kept my emotions in check, masking the storm inside with quiet determination. It wasn't easy. There were nights when doubt crept in, when loneliness overwhelmed me, but I pushed forward, knowing this was my only chance. Then came the moment of truth. While Sarah and my parents were busy planning their grand takeover, I prepared to reveal my own move. It was a gamble that could destroy everything or finally give me the justice I craved. That moment when I resigned and announced the new company would mark the climax of this painful chapter, where betrayal met its match. But that, of course, is a story for the next part. When I finally made my move, it felt like the ground shifted beneath me and beneath my family too. The announcement that I was stepping down, that I was leaving the company I had built, stunned everyone. I didn't make it a dramatic spectacle. No shouting matches, no last-minute pleas. Just a calm, firm resignation, followed by the reveal of my new company, quietly taking with it the most valuable contracts, key clients, and crucial team members. The shock on their faces is something I won't forget. Sarah's eyes flashed with disbelief and anger. My parents looked betrayed themselves, like their careful plan had crumbled before their eyes. But there was nothing they could do. The legal groundwork was solid. The clients I had nurtured over years had already signed agreements with the new company. The talent that truly believed in the vision followed me. It was in every sense a clean break, but that didn't mean it was easy. The days after my resignation were filled with a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I had won this battle, but the cost was steep. The company I left behind, my family's company, now started to flounder. Without its core team and loyal clients, it struggled to keep afloat. I heard whispers in the business circles, sometimes overheard by chance, about how the old company was falling apart. The deeper pain, though, was personal. I wasn't just losing a company, I was losing my family. The betrayal wasn't just about the boardroom. It was in every missed call, every ignored message, every family gathering where I was the invisible one. My parents never reached out to reconcile. Sarah never called to talk. It was as if I had ceased to exist in their world. I remember one particular moment, about 6 months after the split. My mother's birthday. Normally we would have a small family get-together, a chance to laugh and share stories. That year I wasn't invited. The message was clear: I was cut off. I spent the evening alone in my apartment, drinking cheap whiskey and replaying memories that now felt like poison. It hurt. It hurt more than any business loss. I realized then that the wounds from family run deeper than any financial cut. At the same time, I was building something new. The new company slowly gained momentum. The clients I brought over appreciated the continuity and the integrity I promised. The team was smaller but dedicated. Every success felt bittersweet, a reminder of what I had lost, but also a testament to what I could still achieve on my own. Mental health was a real battle during this period. Some days the loneliness was suffocating. I wrestled with anxiety in moments of despair. Friends who knew parts of the story tried to support me, but few truly understood the tangled web of family, business and betrayal. Sometimes I caught myself wondering if I had become the villain in their story. Was I really justified in what I did? Could I have handled things differently? But every time I went down that road, the memories of that dinner, the cold dismissal, the sidelining of everything I built, pushed me back. Slowly I learned to accept that the past was unchangeable. The people I loved had chosen a path that excluded me, and I had to carve out my own future, even if it was without them. Interestingly, as time went on, I noticed a shift in how people outside my family viewed the situation. Some admired my resolve, others pitied me. But mostly I saw respect from those who valued loyalty, integrity and grit. It was a hard-earned reputation, but it meant something to me. Looking back, I can say those months after the split were some of the toughest of my life. The double-edged pain of losing both a company and a family left scars I still carry. Yet they also taught me resilience, self-worth, and the importance of standing firm when everything else falls apart. The fallout wasn't just about loss, it was about the painful process of rediscovering who I was, without the safety net of family or the comfort of the company I had created. After the storm, when everything around me seemed broken, I realized that sitting and feeling sorry for myself wasn't going to fix anything. The betrayal by my family had left a bitter taste, but it also sparked something inside me, a fierce determination to reclaim my life and build something stronger, on my own terms. I knew I couldn't change what happened, but I could control what came next. The first thing I did was focus on healing. It wasn't just about the company anymore, it was about me. For years, I had buried myself in work, believing success would fill the gaps left by family troubles. But the emptiness lingered. I started seeing a therapist, someone who helped me untangle the mess of emotions, anger and sadness. The sessions were tough. Sometimes I just sat there silent, while the pain bubbled to the surface. But little by little, I began understanding that forgiveness, not for them but for myself, was the key to moving forward. At the same time, I threw myself into the new company with renewed energy. This wasn't just a business anymore. It was a statement. I surrounded myself with people who believed in my vision, who had been there through the worst, and who shared the same hunger for success. Unlike before, I fostered a culture of transparency and respect. I refused to let power games and favoritism dictate how things ran. But revenge, in the way most people think about it, wasn't really what I wanted. I wanted justice, sure, but I wanted to prove something to myself more than anyone else, that I could rise above betrayal and emerge stronger. I remember a particular moment during one of our early client meetings. We had just landed a contract with a major local retailer who used to be with my old company. Sitting across the table, I felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. Here I was, with my new team, showing that what I had built was more than just a name or family ties. It was trust, relationships, and hard work. Still, there was a moral tug that I couldn't ignore. Taking the contracts and clients felt necessary, but it also felt like a break in the unspoken family code. I grappled with the fact that I was effectively competing against my own blood. Late nights were often filled with second-guessing. Was I right to do this? Was I becoming someone I never wanted to be? Yet, every time I doubted myself, I reminded myself of that rainy dinner, the cold betrayal, the sidelining of my dreams. That kept me steady. As the months rolled on, my new company grew steadily. We developed new products, explored markets I hadn't dared to before, and slowly built a reputation for integrity and innovation. The feeling of creating something fresh, something mine, was exhilarating. Meanwhile, the old company, Sarah's company now, struggled. I didn't relish their failures, but I noticed the cracks widening. The charisma that had once drawn people to Sarah seemed more like a mask hiding poor leadership and fractured loyalty. Key employees left quietly, clients voiced concerns, and the shine wore off. It wasn't my triumph over them, it was the natural consequence of betrayal and poor stewardship. But what really marked this phase wasn't business success. It was the personal transformation. I became more self-aware, learning to balance ambition with compassion. I redefined what success meant to me. No longer was it about proving others wrong. It was about building a legacy I could be proud of, with or without my family. Surprisingly, over time, some bridges began to mend. I won't lie, it was slow and cautious. My parents reached out tentatively a couple of years later, mostly to check on how I was doing. But the wounds ran deep. Sarah never apologized, and we never returned to the warmth of sibling closeness. But I accepted that some relationships are complicated, and not all stories end with perfect reconciliation. In those moments of reflection, I realized something important. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction or spite, it's growth. It's proving that you're worth more than the betrayal that tried to break you. Looking back now, I'm proud of the man I became after that fracture, stronger, wiser, and more determined. The path was painful, but it taught me invaluable lessons about trust, family, and the power of resilience. Years have passed since that night, when my parents told me to step aside, since Sarah's charm began to eclipse everything I'd worked for, since I packed up the parts of my life I could carry and started fresh. Time has a way of healing wounds, or at least softening their edges, and it has given me a clearer lens through which to view everything. The new company I built from scratch, born out of pain and quiet rebellion, has grown into something I never imagined possible. It's no longer just a small startup with a handful of clients, it's a respected player in the tech scene here in Mumbai, with teams across India and plans to expand globally. The journey has been grueling, with moments that tested every ounce of my resolve, but the satisfaction of creating something authentic, something mine, remains unmatched. But success, I learned, is a complicated thing. It doesn't erase the past, it doesn't always bring the closure you crave. The family fractures remain, like invisible scars beneath the surface. I still remember the sting of silence from my parents and the cold distance from Sarah. Those relationships didn't heal in the ways I once hoped. Sometimes I wonder if they ever will. There were moments when I questioned whether the price of revenge was worth it. Did I lose more than I gained? Did I sacrifice too much of my heart in the pursuit of vindication? But then I remind myself, this story isn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It's about reclaiming my identity and my dignity when those closest to me tried to take it away. Occasionally I hear news about the company Sarah now leads. It struggles with internal politics, high turnover, and a loss of direction. I don't take pleasure in that. It's a sober reminder of what happens when trust is broken and loyalty is compromised. It's also a cautionary tale that family ties alone don't guarantee success. As for me, I've found peace in the things I can control: my work, my values, and the people I choose to surround myself with. I've made new friendships, found mentors, and even begun giving back by mentoring young entrepreneurs who remind me of my younger self, full of dreams but vulnerable to the harsh realities of business and life. Sometimes, when I look back at those difficult days, I feel a strange gratitude. Without that brutal betrayal, I might never have discovered the depth of my own strength, or the clarity of my purpose. Pain shaped me, yes, but it also propelled me forward. If there's one thing I've learned from this journey, it's that family is complicated. Love can coexist with hurt, loyalty can be tested, and sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones who wound you the most. But in the end, your life isn't defined by their choices, it's defined by how you respond. So here I am, a little older, a little wiser, telling this story not for pity or sympathy, but as a testament to resilience. To anyone out there who's been betrayed, sidelined, or overlooked by those they love, you have the power to rise, you have the power to reclaim your story. And sometimes, that is the best revenge of all.